Hello and welcome to episode 18 of the Melbourne AWS User Group podcast. I am your host, Arjen, and I'm once again joined by your and mine friends, Jean-Manuel Becker.
Hello everyone, happy to be here again, Arjen, thank you.
And Guy Morton.
Hello everyone.
Now, if you've listened to us before or looked at the title of the episode, it won't come as a surprise that today's topic is to discuss what was new at AWS in September 2021. Luckily, it's not as boring as the previous months have been, so let's have a look. And let's get started with finally in ANZ. Instead of usual finally in Sydney, we broaden it a little bit because of excellent news for our neighbors across the Tasman Sea.
Yeah, it's very exciting. So we just all calmed down about getting a region in Melbourne, and now we've got a region in New Zealand as well. So there's a lot to be excited about, isn't it? I mean, New Zealand got edge locations about 12 months ago, which, was a nice thing for them. And I thought, that's probably all they'll get. Or maybe they'll get, what are those regions that are not really regions? The local zones. I thought maybe they'll get a local zone or something. But yeah, no, full-fledged 3AZ extravaganza. So that's pretty good for them.
Still a while away, though. It's not going to be opening until 2024.
Yeah.
Yep.
Patience is a virtue.
Yeah, that's a very long announcement period.
But AWS said as well they invested $5.3 billion. So we just know how much a data center costs now with 3AZ. That's the investment they're going to do, and they expect a return of $7 billion in the next 15 years. So it's a long-term investment, but I'm sure all the financial sector in New Zealand going to be very happy. There is some regulation there where the New Zealand government wanted to separate the data from Australia and bring back everything back to their own territories. So that's going to be matched probably with all the financial sector over there.
Yeah.
And maybe we can do DR to them. That would be fun.
Absolutely, for sure.
Yeah.
And I wonder if their geographic location sort of played into the decision at all, like just the fact that they're so geographically as isolated as they are. I wonder whether it's sort of a backup site for post-Holocaust nuclear Holocaust site,
But they're on the like a fault line as well, right? They have earthquake and all sort of things over there. So I don't know if this is the best place to put data centers.
I don't think we can say anything anymore about earthquakes.
No, that's right. We've had our own. But North Island is not as active as South Island, is it? I thought South Island was the one that was the real problem. And I assume it's Auckland, isn't it? And that's North Island.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I
guess they would take that into account in anything that they're building. But yeah, I bet they're building it on a nice big thick slab. With lots of anticipation of natural disasters. Yeah.
Well, actually, I work for a company where we had a data center in Japan, and the racks over there have to be bolted to the floor, which is not here in Australia. But because of the earthquake in Japan, all the racks and servers need to be bolted down.
Safety first.
Yes, you don't want a rack falling on you.
Security is job zero. Security of not having a rack fall on you. That's your first job if you're an AWS engineer. Don't drop any servers on anyone.
But yeah, let's look forward to that in 3 years.
Yeah.
Yes.
In the meantime, let's have a look at things that have come to our little region that already exists. So surprisingly quick, we got Elasticash for Redis autoscaling. So I think we discussed that in the last episode.
Did we?
Yep.
Cheating.
And now it is available in Sydney already.
All right. We announced the initial announcement. Yeah, gotcha. Yeah. That is a short time between that sort of announcement and it being here. It's only a month. Yeah, so that is good. Should happen more often.
Yep.
So yeah, that functionality enable you to scale up and down your cluster depending of the performance you're looking for to do the caching with your Redis, and it can monitor the memory utilization and it can scale up and down your nodes. And Elasticash for Redis will remove nodes when they're not needed in the cluster anymore, so saving you some money there.
Yeah, nifty.
There is an announcement as well concerning the ability to customize reverse DNS for Elastic IP. So that's for people running SMTP servers on AWS to be able to have a better response and improve email deliverability to fight spamming and stuff like that. So that allow you to have that reverse DNS into that Elastic IP.
Yeah, it's very important if you're running a running your own mail server. Not that I would necessarily recommend that most people run a mail server, because if you think you should, you probably shouldn't.
Yep.
But if you must, for whatever reason, you almost certainly want reverse DNS, and you know why. So this was announced first in February this year, and now it's available in Sydney. So it's a bit longer to wait for this one, 6 months or more, but good to see.
Yep. And the last one is a bit of a weird one. It's just a reduced pricing in our region, but for extract, analyze document, and detect document text requests, the pricing here in Sydney is now going to be the same as in US East 1, which seems fair because it's not exactly any different in the way it works.
Yep.
Yeah, it's good to... They might start a precedent, though, of removing the Australia tax, so we might start getting everything cheaper. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Or at least the same price as US East 1. That would be good.
Well, I'm sure we might talk about pricing a bit later because of an announcement from a different company with their R2. I assume you both heard about it, Cloudflare?
No.
Or the SD storage on Cloudflare, is it? Trying to make it for free? Yeah, for fixed assets.
Yeah, basically S3, but without egress data transfer costs.
Wow.
But I mean, when I look at all the improvement who have been done on S3 recently, like, the endpoint, multi-region endpoint, all the encryption and stuff like that. I mean, depends what you want to run, obviously, but S3 is such a more superior product anyway.
Mature. Yeah, it's got maturity, hasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of depends, though, on how much you spend on the egress costs.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I saw Corey Quinn did a nice, simple comparison where, what was it? I think on R2 you would pay like $10, $15 for something, and on S3 it would be $53,000.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's that's very interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a slight difference.
Yeah, I mean, I guess as to James' point, I mean, it's horses for courses to some extent, but I guess it's that if you've got a particular use case that it delivers all the things you need, then yeah, it's obviously going to put pressure on AWS. There may be some customers who are paying a lot right now who may choose to vote with their wallets and move on.
Yeah, a big part of it is even. I mean, it's not out yet, but apparently it will come with like a proxy capability. So you basically put it in front of your S3. So it will just pull it once from S3.
Right.
So for public sharing of assets, which is what this is all about, obviously, then you only pay once for the egress and you still have all the security and everything else you want for any internal stuff.
So, but how would that be different from using CloudFront and all your content ending up in Edge nodes? You'd be in a similar position there, wouldn't you?
Last time I checked, you still pay for egress costs for CloudFront.
Right.
In fact, I think you pay more than you would do for S3.
Okay.
Yeah, it's more expensive. So S3 to CloudFront is free, but then CloudFront out is more expensive than S3 itself.
Right, yeah. Oh, well, good. It's good. Always good to see competitive pressure. It's a good thing.
Anyway, let's have a look at other pricing changes in serverless.
Yeah. So, and everyone got very, very excited about the Graviton announcement. Was that the main thing that we got excited about from serverless this month?
I think it's pretty much the only thing.
Yeah.
Yes, I guess. So now you can run your Lambda function on Graviton 2 processors, and AWS claim you can basically reduce by 34% your price performance on Lambda, which is, fantastic. You just a couple of clicks away, you changed from x86 to ARM. I had to go, you still need to have the latest version. I had a Python 3.7, didn't work. You had to upgrade to 3.8 first, and then you can swap to ARM, but it's not a big deal. I had to do it anyway. So yeah, really easy to do. And I recommend for any Java Lambda function you need to run, please move to Graviton. You can run Node.js 12 and 14, Python 3.8, 3.9, Java 8, .NET Core, Ruby, and obviously everything on Amazon Linux as well. So pretty cool.
So I guess it's the legacy, all the legacy Lambdas that'll take a little bit of doing. So Node 10, there's probably a lot of things out there still running on Node 10. And I think someone said that Lambda at Edge wasn't working either. So, I guess the Lambdas on the Edge are possibly going to take a little bit longer to come through, and probably also they need to continue to maintain support for all the legacy code snippets that are running as Lambda on Edge, which probably tends to be a lot of old crufty stuff, perhaps. I don't know.
But Lambda Edge is not part of that option. You need to run x86. It's only for Lambda running in on AWS, not at the edge. Pure Lambda, yeah.
And things like Node 10 are not supported because they are end of life already.
Yeah. So there is a nice blog about explaining how you could do a soft migration or like a weighted aliases to migrate from one Lambda to the other and then reverse back very quickly. So you don't have to, do all in. You can do that quite softly to make sure that your Lambda function is working on ARM.
Yep. Nifty.
So we've got 2 other announcements on the serverless side. As we said, not a lot going on other than Graviton 1, but then that's a really big one. That's
right. I mean, the Event Bridge stuff is probably, they've been doing things incrementally, consistently with Event Bridge and improving it, extending it. So this announcement this month is about being able to discover event schemas for events from other accounts, from cross-account.
Yeah.
So that will be quite useful, I think, if you have quite a complex Event Bridge kind of ecosystem. So that will make a difference, I think, in some scenarios.
Yeah, so you can discover now from other accounts. There is no cost for the schema registry, but there is a cost to do the discovery. But you have a very big free tiers. You have 5 million ingested events for free per month, and then after it's just 10 cents per million. And all ingested events are measured in 8 kilobyte chunks. So you can really, feed a lot of things into your Event Bridge and discover the schema automatically and then act on it.
Mm-hmm.
I really like Event Bridge. It's we're automating a lot of things now with customers across multiple accounts, chain with Slack and other products to create bots and create an AWS account, create tickets, close tickets, all of that's with Event Bridge. So it's good. Yeah.
And I guess the other announcement was around Amplify being able to have custom scripts execute when you're running CLI commands in Amplify. So if you've got a need to do things post a push or before you add something, you can run those scripts using a hooks folder. So that will allow you to execute those scripts when you run the corresponding command.
Yep, undoubtedly useful to some people.
Yep.
Also to enforce, I guess, leaking and all the type of...
Yeah. Yep. So, any sort of consistent behavior you want to enforce could be supported by it. Yeah.
Yep. But that's it for serverless. A bit disappointing, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, the Graviton's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, but still, we've got 2 more months until reInvent, so I'm sure something will show up during that period. Then... containers. Let's start with Eks Anywhere. That was announced at reInvent last year, and it's basically a way to hook up your on-premise or running in different clouds or however, or even within AWS, I believe, Kubernetes clusters.
Yep.
That you can manage them all through EKS. We're all big fans here of Kubernetes, of course. Honestly, I'm unsure what the added advantage of this is, other than maybe seeing things in a single place.
Yeah, and try to get some support as well. So you can get enterprise support for your clusters. It's quite expensive. It's like $25,000 per cluster for 3 years. Per year, sorry. Or $18,000 per cluster per year for 3 years. And but for that, you need to have enterprise support. So it's quite of an expensive exercise to get support from AWS, but they can help you to troubleshoot your EKS clusters. And then you can have them all in one place effectively. But you will need a connector, though, to connect your cluster back to AWS. And that has been released as well this month in GA to be able to connect that back to the AWS backplane.
But I guess if you're using Kubernetes, it's because you're massive and you've got huge amounts of money anyway, right? So those sorts of sums are probably no big deal.
It's probably a response as well for, Azure does the same thing, GCP does the same thing with different weird name products. So yeah, to respond to that demand, and it's open source, so.
Yeah.
Something else that went GA is the Amazon Managed Service for Prometheus. Prometheus generally used for monitoring Kubernetes clusters, so that you can use it for other things, but that is the main use case I've seen for it. Been waiting for that one for a while. I believe it was also announced at reInvent, so it's now here. If I remember correctly, a couple months ago, the beta version had a price drop, so it should all be affordable. But obviously, as always, see how well it works for you. And it works not just with EKS, but also with EC2 or ECS, and just, I'm guessing, generally anything that runs a Prometheus agent.
Yep. And so what worked with Prometheus is Grafana as well. So now the Grafana product is generally available with new features. It has been upgraded to version 8. You can use your AWS single sign-on SSO to be able to connect to the environment and do monitoring. So you integrate with Cloudwatch, X-Ray, Prometheus, SNS, all of that, and it's in Sydney, so it's quite good. I had a look at the pricing. So you have 90 days free trial for 5 users, but then after you need to pay at least $9 per month for an editor view, and then you have a $5 for each viewer as well. So that's for the open source version. If you want the Grafana Enterprise Edition, that's much more expensive, where you go to the marketplace and purchase a marketplace product for $3,500, and the monthly charge moved from $36 for editor license and then $10 for viewer license on top of it. So a small environment for 30 people is around $5,000 a month all up. So it's decent price. But if you need Grafana, it's better to run it on AWS as a SaaS product than doing your own service.
The other thing here that is useful is ECR adds the ability to replicate individual repositories to other regions and accounts. So what this allows you to do is, if you have a repository and you push an image there up, it will automatically sync it to whatever region or account you've got set up for it. One thing that this might be useful for is when you have Lambda set up with Docker, it needs to pull the image from an ECR within the same account. Obviously, building your image in each environment and therefore presumably each account is not great fun. So being able to do it in one place and then automatically sync it to your dev, testing, and production environment makes life a lot easier.
Oh yeah, that makes sense, yeah.
There's a bit of a pattern of AWS making syncing things that are useful across different accounts and regions, making that something they're doing, addressing at a product level.
Now, to be fair, this is not the right solution for that particular issue. The right solution would be that Lambda would be able to pull it in from an ECR in a different account.
Yeah, sure.
Another improvement for Amazon ECR is the ability to launch containers directly into app runners if your Amazon ECR is public. That's an easy way to quickly test some application, popular web application like an Nginx or something into app runner. You can pull directly from a public ECR gallery.
Has anyone actually given that a go? I tried to use it for something, but it was the number of runtimes that it had support for was pretty small at the time, and it just didn't match the one I needed.
No, I haven't bothered with it yet.
Right.
I was not impressed.
Oh, really? It looked pretty nice for someone who's not sort of a major container expert. It looked like it was potentially filled a niche.
I'm sure it fills a niche.
Yeah, just not your niche. It doesn't fill your niche.
It's more like a Beanstalk or Upswork type product.
Yeah. Which fills a niche.
Yeah, it's just not one I prefer to work with.
You choose to stay out of that niche. Yeah, fair enough.
EC2 and VPC?
Yep.
Usually I'd start with instances here, but actually I think the biggest announcement here was the new global view in the console.
Yeah.
It's certainly handy. Yeah. It's one of those things that's probably frustrated all of us, where you spun up an instance somewhere and you can't remember which region it was in. Well, now the global view will let you see all of your EC2, VPC, subnet type resources all across multiple regions on the one screen, which is super handy if you've got a complex environment and you do things in different regions.
Even volumes and security groups as well. So sometimes you forgot you got EBS costs in different regions. You forgot you have attached volume in there.
Yeah.
And you can easily search for things as well in there. So it's not just a list. It allows you to search. So you can search by name and you see or tag or whatever, and you can see everything related to that across the world
I saw some people complaining about SCP or IM blocking certain regions and they couldn't see that console. Did you see that problem?
That was me. That was me complaining about that. It's just that the thing that the current setup, and I'm sure they'll fix it at some point, is if you've got a SCP blocking you from certain regions, it will still poll those regions. It'll throw a little error message and put a banner up. And if you leave that global view open on your console for a period of time, eventually the little error messages will crowd out the actual content, and you'll end up with not being able to see anything except error messages. But that's just a small UX glitch. I'm sure they'll figure out that happens to some people, and they'll address it. But look, doesn't take away from the utility of the global view. I'm not going to knock them for a small UX thing.
Very good. There is some new instances this month, Arjen, as well. The VT1 for live multi-stream video transcoding. Some quite a big instances there with 4K UHD capabilities and H.264 and 265 codecs. And apparently it's provide a 30% better pricing for streaming and 60% better pricing than GPU as well, than EC2. So that's available in US East, West and Europe, Ireland and Tokyo, not yet in Sydney.
And would they have ever done that if it hadn't been for the pandemic? That's the question I ask myself. Just the sheer amount of video streaming that happens today. Look at us. We're sitting here streaming video to each other. Yeah, it'd be interesting to think if the world hadn't had a pandemic, would they have gone to the effort of actually building a whole dedicated instance type to precisely this problem?
Probably at some point, maybe a couple of years later, but I'm sure it would have shown up. I'm more interested, actually, now that I see this again, considering that all of Twitch, including the source code, was just leaked. I wonder how that would run on these instances.
So for pricing point of view, you have three types. The 3x large, 6x large, and 24x large, from 65 cents an hour to $5.20 an hour, up to a 96 CPU and 192 gig memory and 25 megabit of bandwidth. 25,000 megabit of bandwidth. So if you want to run 64 stream, you need the big one. If you run just 8 streams, then you can have the small version of that instance, and you can stream up to 3.12 gigabit per second. So it's pretty good still. Yeah.
And of course, the nice thing with this sort of thing is if you don't need to stream a lot, and this is where the cloud and AWS is so useful, you can only spin it up when you need it. Just host your little conference or whatever on the meetup, and it can cost you a couple dollars.
All private, yeah.
So that's pretty cool. Other thing, EC2 T3 instances are now supported on dedicated hosts in some regions.
So apparently you can run more instances on dedicated host. I don't know. Even my more secure customer don't use dedicated host. I don't know you guys, but it's just too expensive.
It seems like an unnecessary overhead. What is it, $1 an hour extra?
That's a dedicated instance.
Oh, yeah.
But dedicated host, you buy the whole host and it's in single lazy. So, and you can run only one type of instance on it. So it's kind of becoming a nightmare. Better not moving to cloud, right?
Yeah, is it for customers who just can't get over the idea of sharing? Like they just didn't share when they were children?
Maybe, but I think it's more for licensing. If you wanted to use MSDN, I think if you want to use SQLs, and you can, this is my host, this is the host number, this is my licensing, and you pay per calls instead of paying per instances. So having T3 now, because it's burstable, allow you to stack them up with more instances in it instead of using M5.
Up to 192 instances per host.
Yeah, good luck on 48 cores. That's a lot of machine.
But I guess that's the nature of T3 of burstable workloads. Is you're assuming that they're gonna not all be bursting at the same time.
That's probably what AWS runs them on. What else do we have here? Yeah, speaking of Graviton, you can now seeing Compute Optimizer, how useful it is to migrate there.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, though, that probably doesn't take into account all the development work that might be needed for migrating your application.
Yeah, you can specify whether you want to look at ARM architecture though. So I think it doesn't rub your nose in it if you can't migrate. But if you choose to have it tell you about ARM, it will. Yeah, which makes sense. I mean, it's good to help you, I guess, figure out what the cost benefit ratio is too. You know, if you think you're gonna have to do a little bit of work, at least if it's worth thousands to you, then it's probably worth doing. So yeah, that makes sense.
For people who are using a lot the marketplace and the IMI from the marketplace, I think there's a very good improvement there with aliases. So in the past, when you were designing templates or infrastructure as code, you had to name the IMI ID. And that might change over time with the marketplace. So now you can define aliases from the marketplace and then refer them into your code. And so when the new version comes up, you get the new version automatically. So that's pretty good. And it's across region as well.
Yeah, so imagine that would have been a pretty good use case too. Like if you've got a different AMI ID across different regions, to be able to have an alias to refer to it regardless of region that's going to resolve appropriately, be useful.
Yep.
And you can use the latest tag as well, and to be able to make sure that you get the latest version of that IMI. So I think that's been long in the making, but very good improvement. Yeah,
definitely.
So now you can also use Windows Server 2022 on Amazon EC2, which when I read that I thought, what year are we in? Oh, it's 2021, isn't it? Okay, 2022. So this is like, some kind of futuristic voyage that we're heading on with Windows, is it?
Well, Server always does that. I think they release a version in advance.
Does it?
Yeah.
But how do they know 2022 is even going to happen? I mean...
They're positive.
More
positive than you, clearly.
They're just a big bunch of optimists, aren't they? Yeah.
I mean, you could also think of it as that is the year that the first... stable version of it will be available.
That's probably exactly what their thinking is. Yeah, so we're beta testing it now. We'd like it to be remembered as 2022, even though we launched it in 2021. Forget all the bugs. They were in 2021. They don't count.
So yeah, you just pick them from the list, and you can run them the new 22 version on AWS, and AWS will maintain that IMI with all the patch, everything like they do for 2019.
Yep, if you must.
Yes.
Also some things on the VPC side. There's a couple small ones and then probably a couple big ones that we'll have JM talk about. First one that I was quite happy with is that you can now finally resize your prefix lists.
Yes, I don't understand why they did that. Why the prefix list was fixed and you had to destroy it and redo it. Well, that was defeating the purpose. So I'm very glad they added that functionality now, yeah.
Because that was really annoying, and I had a tendency to just, even if I only had one IP range to put into it, I would just give it like the size of 5 because I was afraid more would be added, and have to, especially when it was shared across different accounts.
Yeah, so that's good. Prefix list, I recommend people to use it now. And yeah, you can really help having your CRDR into there, be able to be used safely into security groups and other places in routing. And that simplifies a lot the management of security and IP routes into your VPC. Another improvement, it seems small, but I think the IPv6 endpoint are available now for the EC2 instance metadata service, timesync, and VPC DNS. So I'm sure if you did any exam on AWS, you know that 169.254, 169.254 is where to get your metadata from the metadata service to understand EC2 IP and all sort of information on your AMI. Well, now you have an IPv6 version, which is FD00 EC2 .254, so following the same type of pattern and with the EC2 term in there in the route in the IP that they manage well. That's for the metadata service. I still recommend you to use metadata service version 2 with a token for security. Don't use the version 1 You can be, people can steal your credential and all of that. So use version 2. Timesync is 123. Usually here again, FD00 EC2 123 for IPv6, and then the provided DNS as well. So you can still use your .2 from the VPC for your DNS, and you have the 169.254, 169.253. Same for DNS. You can have the FD00 EC2 253 for resolving your DNS. So that's pretty good services. And don't run your own timesync or your own DNS. Just use the VPC provided one.
Yep.
Cool. I thought you might be interested in the routing enhancement that allow you to inspect traffic between subnets as well, JM. That looked interesting to me.
I had a customer many years ago who asked me to be able to do that, and that was not possible. So now you can't, and that was really a big limitation of the VPC. You couldn't have a more detailed route than the default local route. Now you can. And you can redirect for each of your subnet to a specific ENI or a global gateway load balancer where you can run, inspection traffic. So you can really have a firewall between your public, between your private, and between your database, and then that one per AZ. So very, very good option for people who want to run stuff as well. I mean, I know people want to run, different load balancers in cloud. Gateways and all sorts of things. You can now run that into your VPC. You don't have to get out of the VPC, go to the transit gateway and come back. You can inspect traffic between each of your VPC, and you can even change them. The only limitation is you need to have a dedicated subnet for your appliance, because they need to be obviously a route, and that route need to be pointing to the ENI, and that's the only way to do a route is to have a dedicated subnet. So yeah, fantastic improvement, way advanced to compare with the cloud, to have that option to really build whatever you want on the VPC now.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to trying to get my renew my SA Pro certification before they start asking questions about this. I think I should be okay.
Yeah, I'm sure you will be fine. Another announcement was the one I love, the application load balancer target group for network load balancer. That has been, a very big demand for many customers. I don't know, Arjen, if you have something on this, but for me, there was like a version that AWS provided with a Lambda function or updating IPs and all sorts of things, but that is very kind of clean design. You can have an NLB talking to the ILB, talking to your instances with a fixed IP, obviously on the NLB with Elastic IP or with private link as well. So you can publish now stuff on private link across multiple accounts and multiple environment.
That is so much nicer.
Yeah. What you cannot do though is to do TLS on the network load balancer. So obviously you need to do TLS on the application load balancer. The NLB will pass through the TLS traffic. You can't offload it. It works only with IPv4. So that's a big, even if you enable IPv6 on both sides, the NLB will talk to the ILB on IPv4. And both of the load balancers need to be in the same account and same VPC. So that's a limitation. I know I'm pretty sure customer would love to be able to do different VPC, different account to route through transit gateways and stuff like that. I don't know, it's not possible. It need to be both in the same VPC. But I mean, the private link is fantastic. And people who want to publish stuff from on-prem or from other account going to be such a big improvement there.
I think it's a good enough starting point, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. No. Instead of running lambdas and updating IPs, yeah. I've got one more thing, and that was a big problem for network bandwidth. When you were talking to an internet gateway, a direct connect, or across region, you were limited to 5 gig of bandwidth, no matter what, as soon as you get out of the VPC. Now, with bigger instances, so if you have more than 32 CPU, the bandwidth is 50% of your instance network bandwidth. So, for example, for a C5 N9X large, the network bandwidth for that instance is 50 gig. So now you can expect 25 gig bandwidth to your internet gateway, to your direct connect, if it is obviously big enough, and then to other AWS regions. So you can have a very fast instance as a gateway from your VPC point of view, and you're not limited anymore of that 5 gig limit, who existed in the past. So interesting. I don't know how that's going to work with placement groups and other things like that you might be able to spread them now more efficiently and still maintaining the high bandwidth across VPCs. So that would be interesting.
Let's have a look at DevOps then. Let's make at least one of our listeners happy and get the big news here out of the way. It's the release of Core Redis 17.
Okay. We can...
oh, yes.
That's enough.
We've mentioned it now.
So you can run the latest JDK 17, yes, available for Linux, Windows, and Mac OS. Fantastic. Thank you, Amazon Corridor.
Even AWS has like 3 sentences in the announcement. So we've already spent more time on it.
Yeah, that's right. It is a pretty small announcement, yes. They didn't spend a lot of money in writing that one up. Yeah. I thought in DevOps, so probably the big one is which maybe I'm skipping things, but the retry from point of failure for CloudFormation is probably the biggest announcement of the month.
It's definitely one of my favorite announcements for the whole month.
Yeah.
That's going to save you so much time, isn't it?
Yeah.
So to recap what this actually is, with CloudFormation, it used to be, up until this announcement, that if anything goes wrong when you create or update a stack, it will roll back the entire stack. This is obviously a security thing and has its good points. It can also mean that when you're dealing with something that takes a long time to update
or build
and then get destroyed again, you can sometimes wait for hours just because you had a typo in an S3 bucket name, which therefore was already in use. Now with the retry stack operations, what you can do instead is you can, when you do your deployment, you can make sure that it doesn't roll everything back, but only the things that actually failed. And then you can continue from there by updating your templates or parameters or whichever thing caused the issue.
Yeah. So at that point, you can either decide to upload a new template or change the template that you, so basically upload a new version of the template if you want to, or if it's a parameter that was bad, you can update the parameter and just retry the stack with a different parameter value. So those are the 2 essential retry options you have. And you can still do a full rollback if you want to be old school. And for a lot of stacks, if they're only going to take 5 minutes to build, maybe the existing traditional behavior is something you're more comfortable with, which would make sense. But yeah, as Arjen said, I mean, where you're talking about a stack that might take 2 hours to build, and we've all been there with that really, 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 really long running stack that gets stuck somewhere and then it fails, at 98%, and you feel like, you feel very sad. And maybe you feel just a little bit angry as well. So yeah, to be able to kind of go, okay, I'm going to retry just that bit at the end, and be able to pick that up where it left off is going to be, it's going to save a lot of hair from being pulled out, I think.
Yeah. Yep. There's a nice blog about it. We show different options and what happened, and it seems to be very, very well to use.
Yeah, they've thought it through. I think they've thought it through well. It looks good.
So I will take this opportunity, though, while we're talking about CloudFormation, to plug something that I wrote. I think both of you missed both of the presentations I gave about it.
No, I've seen the one at the Ambassador. I was there. I've seen it.
Cool. Yeah. It's a tool called Fog. It's basically to make it easier to do all your CloudFormation deployments. It's on YouTube. It's on GitHub, just under Arjen/Fog. And basically, it aims to prevent a lot of the issues that I've had with CloudFormation. So I don't like that it has different commands for updating and creating stacks. I think that it's important that everything, including your parameters and tags, are in code, so it enforces that. It forces you to always look at the change set, whether or not you can have it auto-approve, obviously, for in your CI/CD pipelines, but all those things that I find important are there. And new, which was only added in the 1.0 release that went up yesterday, as of this recording, is similar to what we just discussed with Amplify, the ability to automatically run hooks, commands, I call them pre-checks, before the deployment happens. So you can have it run your CFN lint, your CFN guard, all of those, and unless they are successful, you can tell it this can't be deployed.
Sounds very cool.
Yeah, I'd suggest check it out, but I'm biased.
But does it work with CDK?
As long as you export it properly as a CloudFormation template.
So you can put it in the chain. Put it in the chain there somewhere. Does it understand Cloud Assembly?
No, I don't think so.
No, nobody does. It was a trick question. Have you ever tried to read that stuff? Oh, it's really annoying.
But let's get back to what AWS gave us.
Mm-hmm. Code Guru Inconsistency Detector. That's kind of a neat thing. It analyzes your coding patterns within your repo and detects when there's anomalies. So if you normally, structure something a certain way and suddenly you're not doing that, it'll flag those sorts of issues. So not only, I guess, looking at, Code Guru's tagline, I guess, originally was find your most expensive lines of code. So I guess now they're kind of delving into more code quality elements like, is your code is this section of code just inconsistent with, what your code normally looks like, and it'll let you know.
Yeah, the reviewer part didn't necessarily deal with the expensive parts of code. There was more the profiler.
Oh, right.
Because Code Guru is 2 pieces.
Ah, okay. Yep. I haven't used it, so that shows, obviously.
But regardless, inconsistency checks can be very useful, especially in larger teams. Of course, it's still limited to Java and Python.
But what else is there?
No other languages exist.
That's right, exactly.
Other thing, code build supports small ARM machine types. So you could already use an ARM instance type with code build, but that was a bigger one. Now you can save a little bit of money by using a smaller type.
So you had to use 8 vCPU, which I don't know why. But now you can use 2 vCPU Graviton to run your code build. So it's good. Smaller runners.
Mm-hmm.
We all, of course, love that Device Farm now supports testing web apps on Microsoft Edge browser.
Why bother?
Yeah, that's basically the same as Chrome anyway.
As Chrome
is
anyway,
now,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think it's still, something like 1.5% of the general stats in terms of browser usage, but I guess it's probably higher in corporate settings or, that sort of thing, I guess.
Or non-tech related things.
I suppose, yeah. But as you say, hopefully these days they're all using Chromium.
As System Manager, you can now import your own calendars for maintenance windows or patch windows and stuff like that. So you can import ICS format of calendars. So that's been fine, interesting. As a company, they have marketing campaigns, they have blackout period and stuff like that. So that now you can import them into your System Manager to don't do maintenance on that day. That might be a good idea. So you can import calendars from other format now. That's good.
Yep.
There's an integration between Cloudwatch Application Insight and Systems Manager Application Manager. It seems to just work a bit better together. It doesn't actually, when I first read it, I thought it combined into a single service, but
I think it's just the alarm going on one, but if you want to dig in, you still need to go to Application Insight. Yeah.
So I didn't notice earlier that there's a CDK announcement, so I'd better cover that because I'm a CDK fanboy.
Yeah, we thought it was you. You can improve now firewalls, CloudFront, Cognito with CDK.
Firehose, that's right. Yeah. So 4 new versions. Actually, it's interesting. V1.
But you're on V2, you said.
Oh, I am. I'm on V2 now. Yeah. Because I'm an early adopter. I like to live on the edge. I don't use Edge, but I like to live on the edge. Yeah. So support for Kinesis Firehose Construct Library. The CloudFront Construct Library now supports Origin Shield. So that's useful. Cloudwatch supports defining alarms across AWS accounts, and Cognito user pools support device tracking. So that's if you're wanting to use those features and you're using CDK version 1 at the moment, then that would be a nice thing to get for free. Congratulations. Enjoy.
And I guess then the last one to mention here is Adot, which is the AWS distro for OpenTelemetry, which is a new tracing solution. It works together with X-Ray, but also other things like Grafana, which mentioned earlier as being available here now, but so Prometheus in preview, I believe.
Yes, AppDynamics, Dynatrace, Honeycomb, New Relic, and Splunk. I mean, the and Sumo Logic, really the favorite, right, for that. Datadog as well.
So how does this sit compared to X-Ray? I mean, is this are they supporting just a popular open source product here? I'm not sort of au fait with it really. Is this because it sort of sounds like a competitor to X-Ray to me?
It works together with X-Ray apparently, from what I can see here. So you send the traces to X-Ray. I think it's just a different agent to collect the data and then send it out. So instead of the X-Ray agent, you can use
distro, right? Adot.
Yep.
Gotcha.
So there is a blog as well talking about that and how you can integrate with other products.
Shall we look at the security things?
Yes, security. So we have SCM Private CA now support online certificate status protocol, or CSP. So in the past, it was supporting just the CRL, so the certificate revocation list that you could download from an S3 bucket. Now you can support online certificate status protocol, or CSP, for live revocation. So you don't have to enable it. I mean, it's for your SCM private CA, but you don't have to enable it because it's a bit more cost, and then your application need to be able to use that. So the OCSP is 6 cents per certificate, and then you have 20 cents as well per 100,000 queries on the certificate base. But that's the norm. That's the standard that everybody want to use. So it's good that product now is supported with SCM private CA.
Yep. There's been an update to Macy that allows you now to choose which managed data identifiers you want to look at when you set up a particular job. So you can basically customize what sort of data you're looking to get Macy to alert you about on a per job basis.
Yeah, we don't have social security number here. We have Medicare numbers and stuff like that. So you can adapt it to the more Australian way. I think that's very good. And for all the PI information. So that's a product we're going to be more and more in use, I think. And they dropped the price recently, so I think more people are going to use it.
Yeah.
Yep.
The IBM Access Analyzer, who can generate now fine-grained policies, they support now 50 more services, so you can really use that product to create new policies. He analyze your Cloudflare logs in the past and then recommend some policies for you to generate, and you can really grant only the required permission for your workload instead of being a bit more generous sometimes with IAM policies. So that's a good addition of products.
And on the website, Firewall Manager now supports both log filtering and rate-based rules. So it's nice that you can manage those centrally now.
So that just lets you decrease the volume of logs that basically you want to pass through Firewall Manager.
Yeah. This is basically functionality that was released for WAF a while back.
Yeah.
But now you can manage it through the Firewall Manager.
Yeah, essentially. And so automatically, if you create new WAF or if you have new account coming in your organization, then they will get applied the same rules. So that's pretty good. And then the inline regular expression as well. So you can combine them now into a rule, where before you had to have a separate rule for that, and you can save as well on the web ACL capacity unit. So the new rules use only 3 WCU instead of 25. So you can stack more rules into your ACL, which is good.
Yeah. The only downside is you can't share, because it's not a pattern set, you can't share it between WAFs. So if you wanted to reuse a regex pattern across multiple things, you can't do that with that.
Right.
So a regex pattern set is actually a separate object. So there's some advantages to going that way as well.
But the old way is still supported, so you can do whatever.
Yeah, the old West. That's right. Yeah. So if your needs are simple and you're happy to do it as an inline regex, then yes, it's fewer WCUs, so it's going to be cheaper for you to go that way.
Data storage and processing then.
So we have a new product.
Yes, we've got Amazon OpenSearch Service successor to Amazon Elasticsearch Service in the brackets that we've come to love.
Yeah.
So I was doing some research on Elasticsearch, and then suddenly all the documentation has been renamed. So you go online, all the AWS documentation now talk about OpenSearch. I said, what? This new product? No, it's just renamed the product, and it's now version 1.0. That's the AWS fork edition of Elasticsearch. And they take the opportunity to release plenty of new stuff, like a new notebook, a new data stream, OpenSearch, to simplify management of time series and data, all sorts of new enhancements, which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're certainly putting a lot of effort into it. Do you think there's a certain amount of enmity going on they're sort of behind all this in a way? Or is it Elasticsearch saying you've got to stop using our name immediately?
I think there was definitely something like that going on, because that's always been a pain point from Elasticsearch. And I guess AWS now decided, you know what, we're not going to get anything new from Elasticsearch, because let's be clear, OpenSearch, the service, still supports all the Elasticsearch services that it did up until now.
Yeah.
But you can only upgrade to OpenSearch from there, and you can't go from OpenSearch to Elasticsearch anymore.
Yeah. And presumably AWS has a significant enough investment in Elasticsearch over the years, like, Ultra Warm and various enhancements that they've made to it, that they don't want people to bleed away to using Elastic at this point. They want to hang on to people. So I guess it makes sense for them to have a flurry of announcements and say, hey, look, we've got this and this and this and this, and look how much stuff we're doing. It's really exciting. Stick with us and OpenSearch. This is the future.
Oh, they call it the successor of Amazon Elasticsearch. So it's really clearly the marketing word there. Yeah.
Yeah. I bet the lawyers had a field day on that one. Like, what word can we use? Oh, it used to be no. Successor to Elasticsearch.
Or the classic edition, and then the new.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Legacy Elasticsearch will be the next one.
One of the good improvement is the index transform. So you can now extract significant information from your large data set of indexes and then reduce them and make them more valuable. So it's a bit like a materialized view that you have in database, and you can make your search more efficient, faster, and stuff like that. So, I think it's great to have AWS really improving the product, and that's becoming their product. It's still open source, right? You can still use it as open source, but you have all this new improvement, and that might leave Elastic behind, unfortunately for them.
Elastic is innovating itself quite hard as well. I wouldn't count them out.
No, good.
Just because the 800-pound gorilla decided, we don't really like your terms, so we'll do our fork and go with that.
Yeah. Look, I think it's healthy for the market, I think, to have at least two strong products in the market, and obviously we will. So that's good. And the whole argument about I think a lot of people get a bit, I don't know, it's difficult because the same thing happened with Docker recently, right? With Docker Desktop and becoming a commercial product and not free anymore, and people get upset about this stuff. Must be difficult to have a incredibly popular open source product to need to basically commercialize it at some point.
Yeah.
And everybody hates you when you try. It doesn't matter what you do, everybody hates you. Oh, well, a lot of people are going to hate on you for it.
Well, Elasticsearch hasn't changed their money-making ways. They still just they offer Elasticsearch itself for free, and you can buy extra things for it.
Yeah.
They just changed their licensing so
to make it harder for cloud providers to keep basically using it the way they were.
Yeah, basically make millions or billions of dollars from their work without giving anything back.
Yeah, which is fair enough. Can't argue with them on that at all. Yeah.
One thing to watch out for with this change, by the way, is, and Ian MacKay had a good blog post that describes how to deal with that is the CloudFormation resource names have changed as well from Elasticsearch to OpenSearch. So I think Elasticsearch still works at the moment, but if you want to upgrade to use OpenSearch, then you need to
find and replace.
But doing that will obviously destroy the old cluster.
Yeah.
So you will need to first detach it from your CloudFormation stack, then import it in a new stack and things like that.
Right.
A post describing each of the steps will be added to the show notes. So if you need to go through this, I suggest you have a read.
Don't destroy your Elasticsearch cluster. You'd be very sad.
Yeah. Hopefully AWS don't decide to rename Lambda or something, or the product, because we'll be in trouble. Okay. We move to database.
More Graviton.
Yeah, more Graviton T4G instances for Aurora.
Yep.
And X2G instances. So whether you want them very small or very big.
Yeah.
And actually the same also for RDS with MySQL, MariaDB, and Postgres.
Yeah. X2G are not in Sydney yet, though, where T4 are, which is interesting. So the X2G, new Graviton with a lot of memory, and apparently compared to R6G, they are double the memory per vCPUs, so up to 16 extra large and 1 terabyte of memory, which is massive for a nice database. Quite expensive. I mean, $12 an hour. Not everyone can run that, but it's a very nice Aurora version. And if you compare them to the 6th version or the T4G to compare the T3 version on x86, you have around 10% saving, just a price per hour as well. So just upgrade to T4G, your Aurora.
And on the RDS side, also for MySQL and Postgres, R5B instances, where the B apparently seems to stand for bandwidth, as it has 3 times the IOPS and bandwidth on EBS compared to the regular R5 instances.
Yeah, but you will need the new MySQL 8 or Postgres 12 to be able to use them. You can't have older version than that.
I'm sure your favorite database service you want to discuss, Guy, which is the Aurora Serverless V1. I love how they still call it V1, even though V2 still isn't available for us.
Yeah.
But anyway, it has configurable autoscaling timeouts.
That's right, yes.
So yeah, the default value usually is 5 minutes, so it won't scale. It scale up automatically no matter what. It's the scaling down with now have 5 minutes, and you can do a timeout now between 1 and 10 minutes to slowly reduce your Aurora serverless. But the scale up is always automatic.
EFS now has intelligent tiering. This is similar to what we already had for S3. Where AWS decides this should now go to a lower cost tier.
Yeah. So based on access patterns, it'll just say, I'm going to move this to infrequently accessed on EFS to save you some cash. That's a good thing.
Indeed. Speaking of the S3 intelligent tiering, that has also improved a bit with some cost optimizations for short-lived and small objects. There was always an issue there that small objects or items that don't last for 30 days because it wouldn't kick in until 30 days didn't get any of the benefits, and now they've improved it a bit in that regard.
So yeah, for objects smaller than 128K, there is no cost for intelligent tiering, so which is good.
That is good. Egress still costs, just pointing it out.
Did anyone have a look at the multi-region access points? That looks pretty interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So they reuse basically AWS Global Accelerator in front of it, and then you basically provide S3 buckets per each of your regions. He organize for you automatically the replication if you don't have one already, so you can replicate buckets across multiple regions. You can decide to replicate one source bucket to all the regions or each bucket to everywhere. So it's about being closer to your customer in each region and having that single S3 name that you can name in your code, and everybody point to the same thing, and then the accelerator take care of doing the routing to the proper region. So very nice, cool product.
Yeah, that is neat. Yep.
One thing that is also interesting with that is you're probably both very familiar with the SIG-v4 that you need to access your S3 securely. With this, for this, they developed SIG-4A because the SIG-v4 didn't work multi-region.
Right. Okay.
Apparently, there's a good explanation from Cole McCarthy. I haven't watched it or read it yet. I think he did it on Twitch. I'll find.
So it's gone now.
No, it's up on. It's
everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah.
Yes, right.
But I'll find the link and share that because it's supposedly a very good explanation in depth on how that all works, and he always has very good explanations. So it's definitely worth checking out.
Cool.
Is either of you familiar with NetApp ONTAP?
Yeah, I can talk about it if you want.
Please do.
AWS has a new product, Amazon FSx for NetApp ONTAP. NetApp, big provider of SAN and NAS product, started probably 15 years ago. Were very innovative in the world when in the past you had a SAN with the one provider and you had a NAS on the other provider. So NetApp was able to bring the two products together and having the central storage with multiple protocol. So now AWS decided to offer that product managed by AWS, nodes managed by AWS, and he offered basically storage, which is a single region and single AZ product with option of replication in multiple AZ for NFS, SMB, and iSCSI. So basically, it's a managed service where AWS is going to manage the NetApp product and NetApp hardware for you, and then provide you endpoint to provide SSD on multiple protocol. Mm-hmm. So you can have the same volume shared with NFS and SMB, and using snapshots, using a snap mirror if you want to replicate one of your NetApp on-prem to AWS as well. That works. You can replicate between regions. So NetApp always has been a really good product on-prem. Now is on AWS and you can use it. Obviously, it's expensive. There is a lot of hardware behind this. For like a 70 terabyte environment, it's around $5,000 a month with a small throughput. They use SSD storage. You can do deduplication. They can do all sort of like fancy stuff like all the NetApp product does. And it's around 10 cents per gig on SSDs, and then you need to pay for every IOPS, and you need to pay for throughput capacity as well. So expensive product, but some people might want to use that for building Oracle racks or all the type of clustering stuff with iSCSI. So
Cool.
New product, new FSx, maybe more to come. Or auto terminate EMR clusters to lower the cost. So now you can specify the idle timeout when your EMR cluster will be terminated. You need EMR 6.4, and it will monitor your own application, HDFS utilization, and active EMR notebook and studio. And then by default is 60 minutes. It will switch it off, or you can have a timer between 1 minute and 7 days as well. So try to save money, shut down your EMR clusters. I know some customers are running very big environment, so that will definitely save money in dev and UAT.
Then on the AI and ML side, not a lot again this month. A couple smallish SageMaker updates. It supports a couple new instance types for SageMaker Studio notebooks. The model registry supports inference pipelines, and SageMaker Studio has inference endpoint testing, and Autopilot has additional metrics for classification problems. Again, these all seem like very minor things to me.
Perhaps if you were using SageMaker every day, you'd feel differently about it, but yeah.
It's very possible, but again, I think we're now at the time of the year where any big SageMaker thing is going to be saved up for reInvent, because that always gets a big splash.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And the other things are a couple small things for Comprehend. Again, just extracting custom entities from documents in their native format, and model management and evaluation enhancements.
So now, you can produce now PDF, Word, and plain text straight away into the compliant product instead of having to put them into plain text first. So that's probably easier for customers to do native recognition on that. That's good.
Might look a bit better as well.
Yeah, the other cool stuff. I mean, Monotron gets a mention, so obviously that's exciting. It's IoT, the IoT world. So Monotron is the system that AWS built. It's a hardware, essentially a set of sensors and a gateway. So the initial Monotron was a Wi-Fi connected gateway. So they've introduced an Ethernet connected gateway for Monotron. And it looks adorable. So if you want to go and have a look on Amazon at it, it's only got 3.5 stars out of 5. So I don't know. Amazon browsers are not enjoying it for whatever reason, but it looks awesome and adorable. So what's not to like about it?
Does it look as nice and adorable as the little robot?
The new robot, yes.
No, probably not. No. I'm not gonna make those sorts of claims. Yeah. It does have a big smiley Amazon smile on the front. So, anyway, that's the other cool stuff that I thought was interesting. Now, what about have you listed the robot? Because it's not an Amazon product, is it? It's not an AWS thing.
No, I didn't put it in here.
No, yeah. What else is cool?
The ground station licensing accelerator. Mostly because anything to do with ground station is cool, because that is literally
satellites,
space stuff.
Yeah.
In all honesty, it's not that great. I think it makes it easier to get licensing to get your...
To Spectrum license.
Yeah, to get your stuff up in the air in space and...
Right.
Yep.
Should we be encouraging people to put more things in space? Isn't there enough up there already?
like a rich Amazon.
You won't stay an ambassador for long if you start knocking the boss.
Well, he's not the boss anymore.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, I suspect he might still have a say.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yes, there's enough rubbish in space, I think is what we're saying already.
I think another cool product that I found is Amazon Connect Voice ID is now generally available.
Oh, nice.
Is to be able to recognize your voice and make your voice, your stamp and your security, instead of asking you when you join your credit card or something, your date of birth and all the type of personal information. You can recognize your voice stamp and then connect you to the correct operator. So I found that a great service from AWS to run that on AWS Connect.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I wonder how uniquely identifying a voice ID is. Like, because I mean, some people who can do impressions, right? They sound amazing. Like you just think,
or record it and rearrange the words and then make you say something else.
yeah. Well, there's that too. But yeah, it's It just doesn't feel like a fingerprint. Everyone can understand. A retina scan, I can understand. Yeah. Voice ID, I kind of think people can do amazing things that change the tone of their voice. And I know, if you put it through a spectrum analyzer and do sort of third octave analysis on it and all that kind of stuff, maybe there's a lot of things that are being taken into account, but it'd be interesting to know a bit more about it.
Yeah, but it's not for security or anything.
No, it's more for personalization, right? So I ring up and they go, "Oh, that's probably Guy." We're not going to give him any money because he called up and we think it's probably Guy, but we'll take a punt. It's probably him. Yeah.
The other Connect thing, and I have to applaud the Connect team generally for their naming, because I thought Contact Lens was a great name, and now they've got Amazon Connect Wisdom, which I also think is just a really nice name.
Yeah. No, that's been they announced that a while back. I think that's the kind of ML stuff in the background, isn't it? It's looking.
It's building connectors for Salesforce and ServiceNow and try to gather this FAQ from these sources to give better response to the customer online.
Yeah.
So it's good.
Yeah. No, I agree. Connect itself is a better name than a lot of product names, and yeah, they haven't really put a foot wrong so far. If they Voice ID, Connect Chat, Contact Lens, Wisdom, yep.
And they're really taking the PIBX, all style to the next level. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah. So a lot of announcements. So that's six announcements about Connect this month. So
do you want to finish us up with any of this IoT stuff, Guy? Or
I haven't actually looked at. I haven't looked at any of them. So Device Defender is a security, platform, I guess, for checking on known states and looking for sort of anomalies of behavior from an IoT device. So there's a couple of updates around that. And the other things around device management around fleet monitoring, which is, I guess, maybe useful if you're managing a fleet of IoT devices in IoT device management. So if you are, check it out. It's enhancements. It's good, right?
With that, we've once again reached the end of the episode. I hope you all enjoyed listening to us discuss the news. As always, I want to first thank the user group sponsors for their support. That's our gold sponsor CMD and our silver sponsors CFO and Versant. Of course, I also want to thank my co-hosts for spending this time with me, Guy Morton.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
And Jean-Manuel Becker.
Thank you, Arjen. Always a pleasure. Always a lot of fun with you guys discussing the news.
And lastly, I want to call out that you can find the user group itself at melp.awsug.org.au or as at AWSmelp on Twitter. If you go to our website, you can also join our Slack, where plenty of AWS-focused discussions take place, and, of course, join the meetups. They're always streamed live. Thank you for listening, and we'll be back next month. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.